My name is Lloyd Snyder, and I'd like to discuss a couple of table saw safety rules. Probably the heart of every wood shop is its table saw, at least mine is, and most woodworkers that I know would say the same thing. This happens to be a saw stop, but regardless of its built-in safety features, I think it's important that you know a few other things. I'm going to discuss primarily two basic safety rules that'll save you a lot of grief, maybe a lot of pain. Why am I doing this? I experienced watching another person completely sever 3 fingers, and they were irreparable because it was a dado blade that took them off. So, having said that, having brought back that horrible vision, I'd like to discuss 2 basic safety rules. We all know about hold downs, feather boards, all the different push sticks and the different grippers and things that you can buy. Those are great, and I own probably all of them, and I use them all. I always use something to push wood through a table saw. But there's 2 things that if you don't remember anything else, remember these 2 rules, and that's when do you saw in which direction on the board. This is an old piece of pine that just picked it up off the floor. Grain's running in this direction. Everybody knows when you cut with the grain, you're ripping. You cut across the grain, it's cross-cutting. Very simple. Everyone should know that. Number 1, you're either going to use a fence, a miter gauge, a sled. You're going to use something that's going to hold the board that you're cutting. Why? You don't free cut or freehand cut with a table saw. I've seen people do it. I've seen it in YouTube videos. It scares me to death. You freehand cut. This is not a bandsaw. This is a table saw. That blade is not going to move. It's traveling probably, I'm just going to guess, and I know some of you are going to correct me on this, probably about 5,000 RPM. Many things can go wrong when you try to free cut or freehand cut. So 2 basic rules. If you're going to rip a board, use your fence. That's what it's made for. Get a good fence, because it'll save you. You put your fence up, lock it down, you use your hold downs, your feather boards, your push sticks. I'm not using anything because I'm not going to turn this saw on today. But keep that in mind. You're ripping, use a fence. That's the only safe way to do it. All the other stuff improves the safety. Another thing is where you stand when you're ripping. Stand aside, because whatever's coming back at you is going to go that way. And it's going to come at you fast. I've been hit by kickback, and it's not fun. So, ripping, use the fence. What's the only other way you cut on a table saw is cross-cutting. I've seen people do this. They walk up with a board, I'm just going to run it through the blade. I'm standing in the worst possible place to do that, because the board is going to come back and it's going to hit me. And even though I wear an air shield, which has a plexiglass face on it, it doesn't protect my chest and a few other parts of my body that I'd like to protect. Best thing you can do, use your miter gauge. That's what it's for. It holds the board, it gives you control, and that's what it's all about. The fence, the miter gauge, it's all about control. You rip into that blade, standing slightly to the side, you're not going to have a problem. You get good accurate cuts, they're safe, you stay away from the blade. That's really the only safe way to do it. Is another type of cross-cutting device, if you don't want to use the miter gauge, one that I prefer. I use my cross-cut sled probably more than my miter gauge. Why? Keeps the blade contained. It's inside there. Also, it enables me to do things like hold on to the board better. If I'm working with a small piece of board, I can clamp it over here. I can push it through. The sled is a great device. So that's really all I wanted to say. A couple of real good safety tips. There are hundreds and hundreds of safety tips on table saws. There are entire books written about them. But those 2 rules, to me, above all, are something you should never forget. Never forget, you're ripping, use your fence. If you're cross-cutting, use either your miter gauge or use a sled of some kind. That's all I've got to say. Thanks a lot. Lloyd Snyder, www.casaguitar.com. Thank you.